became a political prisoner of Mueller's witch hunt. Jerome Corsi is with us. You said, I'm not taking the plea deal. I know I could go to jail for the rest of my life. A lot of this revolves around the text message that was sent to you by Roger, who you just heard, that you didn't remember, and you amending your testimony numerous times because you didn't remember what you wrote or said 2 years ago.
That's correct. And what the special prosecutor is asking me to do is accept a fraudulent plea, which I am going to have my attorneys file criminal charges on with the Department of Justice. My experience made it clear to me that the political criminals are running the Department of Justice and Mueller's prosecution. I was ridiculed. My testimony was laughed at. They yawned at it. They misbehaved. And they accused me of being a liar and a fabricator, I think, which was an attack on me for the books I've written that have been so successful, 20 books since 2004.
Oh, I remember when you wrote Unfit to Get. Let me ask you this. You spent how many hours before Mueller and his team?
I was there for 40 hours approximately.
Let me ask you this. When they were offering you this plea deal, which they even said might just result in probation, maybe no jail time at all, when you were confronted with that opportunity, because you're right, you're 72 years old, you may be, if this could be a life sentence for you in jail. But when they were talking to you, were they telling you what, in your opinion, what they wanted to hear, and if you said it, you get off scot-free?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, my attorney said all they want you to say is that you're the source.
Give me an example of that. What were they telling you they wanted to hear?
Well, they wanted to hear that I had a source connected to Assange, or I did some way had a direct contact with Assange so they could do the connection, which would go Roger Stone, Jerry Corsi, Assange, and then they'd have their basis for collusion. It was complete nonsense, but they would not accept when I told them that, in fact, I never met Assange. I had no contact with Assange or intermediary.
You never had any contact with Julian Assange or WikiLeaks?
Absolutely none.
Never?
Never.
Stay right there. If you can stay, we're going to hold you over. Jerome Corsi. All right, we continue my interview now with Jerome Corsi, who decided to turn down a plea deal agreement with the special counsel's office. He says he's committed no crime. All right. You never spoke to Julian Assange. You never met him. You never spoke to anyone at WikiLeaks? Any surrogate?
That's correct. I never did.
Okay, let me go back then to August 2nd, 2016, and you said and wrote, word is a friend in embassy plans 2 more dumps, referring to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, one shortly after I'm back, second in October, impact plan to be very damaging. So if you don't know him, how did you know that?
Well, because it was a matter of deduction. I had expert analysis and information how the Democrats put their computer system together. The release of information on July 22nd, 2016, that got Debbie Wasserman Schultz was taken from the DNC email server, but it only included officials who were not John Podesta. I said, John Podesta is missing here. And I knew whoever stole emails from that server had John Podesta's. And I said, if I had John Podesta's emails, I'd keep them until the end. I'd make him October surprise.
So you deduced that they had to have them because of the same server.
Same server. It had to come out.
Let me go to the Wall Street Journal then. You said, what I constructed, what I testified to the grand jury was I believed I was creating a cover story for Roger, meaning Roger Stone, because Roger wanted to explain the tweet that I had earlier asked him about. And by the way, the special counsel knew this. They can tell virtually my keystrokes on that computer. Roger said that's not logical and said that you were being squeezed by Mueller's prosecutors when you said that. Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, 2 points very quickly. First of all, they constantly pressed me about what Roger thought. And I told them it was a shame I didn't take the mind reading course at Harvard, but I can't tell you what somebody else is thinking. And listening to Roger tonight sounds like that's Roger's explanation, and I'll accept that that's what Roger was thinking. In terms of what I thought I was doing.
Were you trying to stay, as you said, were you trying to create a cover story for Roger?
Let me answer that. In politics, as in public relations, and I was trained in public relations by Edward Bernays, the founder of it, you create narratives to benefit your client. British Petroleum going after oil reserves all over the world becomes BP, and suddenly it's beyond petroleum. Well, BP is no more beyond oil than Long John Silver was beyond Ludi. Is that a lie?
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. You actually said the following. You said, in my heart, I went in to tell the truth, did my best to tell the truth, and I won't swear before God and a judge something I consider to be a lie. We're talking about 2-year-old emails, Mr. Corsi, 2 years old. And then you acknowledged the times that you had forgotten some of the emails. You could have possibly gotten no jail time, none at all. And now you might, as you even said, risk dying in jail. You're older. You're 72 years old. Look, we all worry at this point in our lives, right?
Yes.
Why?
Because...
and here's my bigger question. What did you know they were trying to get you to say?
They wanted me
What did they want?
They wanted me to name a source with WikiLeaks that I had that told me Assange had Podesta's emails. And to answer your other question, the plea deal they were offered, I had to go before a federal judge and swear under God and to a federal judge that I knowingly and willfully submitted false information that I knew to be false to the federal authorities in order to mislead them. I didn't do that. I'd rather spend, if the United States has come to it, I'll spend the rest of my life in jail, but I will not swear under God to a lie. I won't do it.
But you do admit listen, I can't tell you who was on my show last week. So, you know, if I'm in the same position, unless I reviewed all my emails and went back and looked at it ahead of time, I wouldn't remember. I don't know who was on the show last week. I can tell you Reagan's accomplishments from the 1980s, but I can't tell you who was on. Let me ask you this, because I think this is very, very important. And, you know, if you didn't have any communications and you didn't know, and did you ever, because looking for op research isn't a crime, and we'll get to our attorneys next. If you conspired to steal, hack into somebody's personal emails or whatever, or had any doings with that, that would be a crime. Did you do any of those things?
Absolutely not. I deduced that Assange had Podesta's emails. I knew what they were going to be and how damaging they were going to be and how they were used. But I'm not a human tape recorder. You can't punch a button and have me recite word for word a conversation or an email I did 2 years ago. And that's what the prosecutors demanded. They ridiculed me. They yawned. They got up in the room. They abused me all kinds of ways psychologically. And they did that to coerce me, to make me from day one think that if I didn't tell them what they wanted to hear, I was going to go to prison for the rest of my life and die there.
And did they say that to you?
It made it very clear this was serious offenses and there could be multiple charges and there could be...
Let me ask you this. I remember when you wrote the book on John Kerry, and we had you on many times at the time. You know, I'm reading what the media writes about you, that you didn't believe the moon landing was real, or that 9/11, I want to get it accurate, was an inside job. I don't know if you believe those things or not. Do you? Because I was surprised when I read it.
That's all fabrication. I don't believe. But you're getting to a very important point. Aaron Zelinsky, one of the prosecutors, ridiculed me. He said, you just take this fact, that fact, you make lies. Well, I know he's ridiculing my work on, you know, Barack Obama, the birth certificate. He's ridiculing the SWIFT boats. I'm being persecuted and prosecuted because the left wants to get rid of me, and they want to ridicule these books. You're allowed to have controversial opinions and views. I would disagree with you on both of those things, but this isn't what's at issue here. What's at issue here is, were you offered basically freedom if you told lies? And you're saying they wanted you to lie, they were pushing you to lie. Yes, and if I had given them what they wanted, it would be all happy. And in fact, after the first grand jury testimony, they all shook my hand and congratulated me, and they blew it up in the second round because I did not have a source with WikiLeaks. They blew it up for that reason. All right, Jerome Corsi, thank you for being with us. We wish you the best of luck.
Well, Robert Mueller is playing hardball with potential key witnesses, and at least one is now threatening to fire back. Roger Stone associate Jerome Corsi tweeting he has instructed his attorneys to file a criminal complaint against Mueller's special counsel and the DOJ for prosecutorial misconduct in his case. Corsi says he rejected an offer from Mueller's office to plead guilty to lying to investigators about his alleged interactions with WikiLeaks.
If the United States has come to it, I'll spend the rest of my life in jail, but I will not swear under God to a lie. I won't do it.
All right, let's discuss with National Security Attorney Bradley Moss and Fox News contributor, former Republican Congressman from Utah, Jason Chaffetz. Welcome to you both, gentlemen.
Good evening. How you doing?
Thank you.
I'm very good, but there are just minute-by-minute developments in this Mueller case. So many different people involved. Let's talk about the fact that the president said in the interview with the New York Post that he's not necessarily ruling out a pardon for Manafort. Bradley, what do you make of that?
Well, the president's been doing this since the beginning. He likes to talk. He likes to go into these conversations about things he might do, he hypothetically could do. And to an extent, he's allowed to do this. It's just political commentary. But the concern, especially given what was gone on in the last couple of days, is whether or not he is dangling a pardon to Paul Manafort. We know that there was this joint defense agreement that continued between the two legal teams even after Paul Manafort struck the plea deal and was supposed to cooperate. We now know that the special counsel is angry with Paul Manafort for allegedly continuing to lie, at least about his business dealings, but what else we don't quite know yet. We're waiting for Friday's hearing. Whether or not the president is doing this just because it's how he likes to talk, or if this is part of a strategy on his part and his legal team to try to dangle a pardon, to try to get Paul Manafort to stay quiet, we're waiting to see, but that cannot be the way this works.
Okay, well, there are a lot of folks out there objecting, saying it's an impeachable offense, that it's unethical and all kinds of other things, but the president has said there's not even been a discussion of it yet, but it's not off the table. Rudy Giuliani says he'll be treated, Paul Manafort, like anybody else who would be up for a potential pardon. Now, in that same New York Post interview, the president said that he believes, by his estimation, that Paul Manafort, Jerome Corsi, and Roger Stone have all been encouraged to lie. Here is Rush Limbaugh's take on that.
If you were Manafort, what would you do? They're asking you to lie while prosecuting you for lying. If you lie to them, even if they've asked you to, they can come back and later accuse you of lying to. This is an untenable situation and circumstance, and it's all rooted in the fact that they've got nothing.
Jason, what do you think they have?
I don't think they have much. Remember, what they prosecuted and went after Manafort for had nothing to do with Russia and collusion or anything like that. And so I don't think they have much. The president has constitutional opportunities to use a pardon. He's answering a question from a reporter. He's not dangling out there. I think what Senator Warner said was absolutely, totally wrong. The president has the ability to pardon anybody that he wants. And he certainly wasn't barking about that when President Obama, President Clinton, and others were pardoning people. It's just an attack on Donald Trump.
Okay, so in the meantime, we have a number of interviews out there by Jerome Corsi. He says that he's willing to kind of roll the dice at this point, essentially saying that he has been truthful, he has amended where he made mistakes, and that he is not going to play ball with this plea deal. In the meantime, now we know that Manafort is facing the sentencing on Friday because the Mueller team says he has lied about all these things, Bradley, that you mentioned. Where does this leave the president, Bradley?
Well, you know what? This is coming to an end here in the sense of all the aspects of the investigation are coming towards the close. We now are getting the final parts of whatever may or may not be a collusion angle. We know that the special counsel is going after Roger Stone. That's where Jerome Corsi came into it. If there was any type of criminal conspiracy that involved the Trump campaign, it's likely going to involve that WikiLeaks angle. We know the president's already given the written responses to the special counsel. He's already given those explanations. Whether or not the special counsel follows up remains to be seen if there's additional questions. We're looking at this probably being done within the next 6 months, and if the president would just let the process play out, odds are he would survive legally, if not also politically.
Well, and so much of this is the court of public opinion. But, Jason, you know probably better and understand this better than any of us. It's one thing when the GOP is running the House. It's going to be another when Democrats are running the House and the investigations that may come up. The president also said in an interview that if they harass him, he thinks it'll be the best thing that ever happens to him. He'll be able to counterpunch him. But he says he'll also declassify FISA warrant applications and other things that would be devastating to the Democrats. But he's holding off until he needs to use those documents. What do you make of that strategy?
Well, look, the Democrats have already foreshadowed. They've named, I think, 83 different investigations. They've presupposed those outcomes. You got to remember that you have the likes of Lindsey Graham and others in the Senate that can play ball with them like that. James Langford, Cory Gardner, other people can go back after this stuff as well. I think that the House is going to do what they can to embarrass Donald Trump on a daily basis, but try to extract documents out of the Department of Justice, even when it was Republicans trying to get it from Republicans, was exceptionally difficult. So I think the president's on solid ground, and I think the Democrats will once again overplay their hand.
Well, a lot of Republicans are calling for him to declassify those things already, so we will see where they end up. Jason and Bradley, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.